Can we move on to a bigger topic?
Hold on. We have a couple more examples of SBA dysfunction. Listen, this is Tuesdays with Trevor. This is not Tuesdays with Lyndon, Trevor. You're just here to keep me under control.
Beware of everybody. This is our merch. By the way, June has some really nice sales on our merch, so I encourage you. Oh, wait, we're July 1st. There's going to be sales in July, too. So,
Linda Ray returns. Welcome to Idle Chatter, EIDL. Chatter, if your small business got a COVID EIDL during the pandemic, today's video is for you. It's Tuesdays with Trevor, the first Tuesday of the month, where I rant and rave about all things about the SBA and the COVID program. And now Linda's here to try to rein me in.
yeah, we're bringing it in. We're bringing it in. We need a little temperament. We need a little temperance of what is happening with Trevor's brain exploding all over our house when we're working from home. We decided to come to the office and see how we can do this in a different setting, just to kind of shake it a bit. So yeah, I'm basically going to be interviewing you, right? I'm going to be interviewing you with questions.
That's the plan.
About stuff.
We'll see how it goes if we kill each other or not on camera.
Yeah, now I hear him recording. I edit the recordings and everything, so I kind of know what's going on. But I think suffice it to say, there is still an abundance of dysfunction. And we're going to get into short-term payment assistance. We're going to get into the new SBA administrator, and I will try not to shred her to pieces. We're going to be talking about changes in your business and how to go about it. We're going to talk about closing your business and what that means for you, since the SBA is not answering the phone.
But first, we need your help. You gotta hit the thumbs up. You have to tell YouTube that the video featuring the gorgeous Linda Ray has value to you, and that you want YouTube to share this video and our other videos with other small business owners who have COVID loans just like you. And the best way to do that is thumbs up. I'm sorry, I'm so used to doing videos by myself that I'm stepping all over Linda, who's gonna tell you about subscribing.
Well, the thing is, it's a free gesture. So, help a sister out, because we need to let YouTube know that our videos don't suck, that our content doesn't suck, and that people are actually deriving some value. We have a client who told us, please don't stop recording videos. Because
and we have arrived at that place. This is 2025, so this is July 1st, 2025, and we are still doing it, but I will tell you, I've had 3 meltdowns so far this year, and I'm like, look, we're done! We're shutting it down!
Yeah. And
tell them why I have those meltdowns.
You would think, and you'd be wrong, that SBA could have gotten their act together by now, after 5 years of COVID, since 1953 with the EIDL program, and
disaster loan program. You keep calling it EIDL. I keep telling you it's disaster.
Yeah.
By the way, we're back. You see, this is the kind of playful banter that you all have come to know and love if you've been with us for a few years. When we used to do live YouTube videos during the pandemic, and often Linda would kick me under the table, and often we would have absolute meltdowns on camera.
Yeah. First, let's talk about the short-term payment assistance.
Oh,
so we already
what a nightmare.
We already know that they eliminated the hardship. That's pretty much old news. It's been literally 3 months till
3.5 by the time this video is published.
Oh, that's right. We're recording this on June 18th. So
don't say that.
Why?
I don't want people to know our secrets. By the way, just as a secret, we both had breakfast at the River and Rail Cafe here in town in New Milford, Connecticut. Wow. Yeah. The breakfast was amazing.
All right. So what I would like to know is...
support small business.
Besides the old news of short-term payment assistance now being the only option for business owners looking to mitigate their budget, if you will, or the expenses.
And a ridiculous option at that.
Yeah, so
50% reduction for 6 months.
That's it.
Who thinks these things up? Because I'm pretty sure that whoever at the SBA thinks these things up, A, has no experience as a lender working in remediation. Which means working out with your borrowers how to assist them to continue paying the loan. And I come from a lending background. I was a mortgage banker for 30 years. So remediation, it's a thing in the lending world. And number two, whoever at the Small Business Administration is thinking up these ridiculous hardship accommodation, short-term payment assistance, 6 months? I mean, have you folks at SBA actually ever run a business?
But hold on, I need to stop you there because
see, this is what she's doing.
All right.
She's Linda Ray reining me in yet again. And I love it.
I gotta rein you in on the reining in. All right, but let me ask you this question for real. You say 6 months, but didn't you just discover that the hardship wasn't even the 6 month duration before it canceled? Didn't you find out?
Yes. 5 payments.
5 payments.
5. Not 6.
Not 6.
5 payments.
So how does that happen? Like on the 6th month, they could revert back to the full payment?
6 months versus back to full payment. So we have a client who has a little convenience type of store, not a franchise, but kind of like those convenience type stores, located in a small town just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And he was probably the 4th or 5th client that hired us in the first weeks of the pandemic to help him get approved for a COVID loan. And we went on to help him do that, and Paycheck Protection Program, we gave that to him as our other clients did as a courtesy, because it was illegal to charge a fee. And by the way, if you paid somebody to get you a PPP loan, they committed a felony. Just saying, get your money back and report them to the FBI. Okay, anyway, so this fellow who...
that's going to do any good now.
3 years ago in the summer of 2022, I called him up. I said, listen, your first payment is coming due at the end of the 30-month deferment period. And I knew he had been deferring the payments. I said, you're going to be my guinea pig, my test case.
Yes.
And so I've been managing his... My SBA portal, pay.gov before all of this, and his request for hardship accommodation. And last year, earlier this year, last year, when I got him approved for the first round of hardship accommodation, at the end of it, as we were requesting extension, I noticed that they were saying it would end on the 6th payment, and on the 6th hardship payment, it would revert to full payment. And that made no sense to me. Again, as a former lender, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't it 6 months of reduced payments?
So on the 7th payment would
you
be
would think, right?
Yeah.
But it was the 6th. Now, in the case of this particular client, we'd had an issue setting up the accounts originally with pay.gov and then ultimately by SBA, a technology issue, which took me 60 to 90 days to repair, because nothing's easy at SBA. I kind of sort of know what I'm doing. But it was about an email address. Got it fixed. Okay. And then there was the whole thing where SBA said we had missed payments, so I had to have him make additional payments, honoring his cash flow issues, of course, to bring the loan current. When I saw this last year with the hardship program, I'm like, okay, this is probably just to do with the fact that we had some previous late payments, right?
Right. And
I didn't come here to YouTube to ask you folks about this. But his final hardship payment for the second round should have been June 17th of 2025. And when I went into the folder on June 15th, 16th, I went to my SBA portal, I noticed that it was not the final 6th hardship payment. It was a full payment. And then I went, wait, so it's confirmed. I was right.
But wait,
the previous time, it's only 5 payments.
Are you sure you didn't?
I'm positive.
Mistake the date of the first payment?
I literally went into payment activity, which all of you can do on the My SBA portal, and I literally pointed to my computer screen, and I went like this. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't do it just once. I did it 3 times. I'm like, well, I must be getting this wrong. But isn't that how we always think it is with the SBA? We think we're doing something wrong.
That's right, because it's its own little inherent gaslighting mechanism of sorts, because it's so dysfunctional. But I also want to reiterate something that has happened in our comments that I don't know if I deleted or blocked that person, but they basically said, stop manipulating us like you're using real client test cases. It wasn't those exact words.
I blocked that person.
Yeah, it wasn't those exact words, but it was something to the extent of accusing us of falsely advertising our sensibilities of
Yeah, like we're
having
sitting
real
around
clients.
making up fake imaginary client stories.
Now, we do have clients, we've had hundreds of clients that have paid us. This particular client, because of his loyalty for 5 years, he, Trevor kind of anointed him as the test case of.
And we have not billed him for this work because
Yes.
he has agreed to be my guinea pig. Right?
Well, and also because, we kind of collect how the process unfolds with various types of activities that are required.
Such as this situation with 5 payments instead of 6, where when I first saw it, I was like, okay, it must be a mistake I'm making. But now that I've seen it happen twice.
Yeah. Cut.
I'm
starting to sweat.
Let us know in the comments if you've checked your My SBA portal and tell us if Trevor's right or if he's wrong. Is it 5 payments for your previous hardships or is it 6? Ask them that question.
Or you could just do it because you just did it. So why don't I just leave that in with the editing?
Why don't you just do it? And action.
If you haven't noticed it, but because you haven't looked, you might want to just take the extra 10 minutes, make the extra 10 minutes in your schedule today and let us know.
Thinking out loud now about this, talking out loud about it, and my brain is kind of going like, of course, I did have a really exceptionally large cup of cafe au lait at the River and Rail Cafe.
It was divine.
Which you stole some of that.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very sad.
We're going to move on now.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if this is one of those repayment issues that confounds people all the time when they discover that they are delinquent on payments.
Because they thought they had another month.
They thought they had 6 hardship payments, so they schedule recurring payments for 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? For 6 payments.
Yeah, but you said Autopay most of the time doesn't work.
No, that's not true. I've said there are major problems with the Autopay, and as a general rule, we advise against using it. But I will tell you, for our test case client, I use Autopay only because I'm a nut bar and I check it all the time. I go in multiple times a month and I check the payments.
Okay.
But I wonder if people are thinking, oh, I've got Autopay set for 6 hardship payments.
Yeah.
But then the 6th payment is really the full payment, and the Autopay only takes out the reduced payment, and they become delinquent. I wonder.
Oh, well, listen, there's a lot to wonder. But let's move on to the thing that we don't need to wonder about.
Yeah.
Because it was in black and white.
Yeah.
And that is the SBA who sends you instructions for the short-term payment assistance program to send a letter, and that how with a client of ours, we sent the letter, well, she sent the letter, but we prompted her with what to do.
Let me back you up. For the short-term payment assistance program, which we introduced all of you to way back in April, long before the SBA put it on the SBA website under the obscure page, Manage Your COVID EIDL, which if you don't know how to do it, it's really hard to find that page. Now, as of May 30th, 2025, they updated that page to give you instructions for the short-term payment system. And in instructions is 3 basic criteria. Number 1, you cannot be more than 120 days delinquent. In other words, you are eligible even if you are currently late on payments, but no more than 120 days delinquent. Number 2, you cannot be in a charge-off status where the loan is so delinquent past 120 days that it may be in charge-off status, which means you have to make a lump sum payment, bring it current. And number 3, it says on the SBA.gov website, submit a letter explaining what the temporary challenge is and what your plan is to overcome this temporary challenge. And so this is the part that just, if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny. So we submit the letter, and then the SBA responds with, are you going to tell them or I'm going to tell them? A request for the letter. We had a client who is kind of sort of on retainer. We're on retainer with the client, a dental practice in California. Lovely lady. Her hardship accommodation had ended, and we told her about short-term payments. She asked for our assistance. She drafted the basics of the letter. I revised it and helped her clean it up and make it more presentable. She signed it, and I gave her the template, and she submitted it to the SBA. As per the instructions on SBA.gov, manage your COVID EIDL page. And a week later, she got an email from SBA saying, "We have received your request. Please submit a letter."
I need to insert some kind of goofy cartoon music.
I don't know that after 5 years the SBA deserves humor for the disgrace.
Well, it's
a disgusting, it's honestly, it's an absolute disgrace.
It's despairing for sure. But can we talk about the dysfunction and the when you didn't think it could get more dysfunctional, it did. Oh, it did. And that is because who's at the helm?
Yeah.
Another feckless henchman in this despicable cabinet of a clown show.
This gal is losing her mind that Governor Gavin Newsom of California...
Stay safe, California. Stay safe.
That the governor of California should declare a disaster for, to use her words, the riots in L.A.
Which they caused.
By her words, the riots in L.A. And that he should apply for a disaster declaration so that her Small Business Administration can come in and offer money to local businesses impacted by this disaster. I want to point out to folks that the Republican-controlled Congress did the same thing after the George Floyd protests and the things that were happening in Seattle. I'm not sure it was George Floyd, but after some previous political protesting that happened, these politicians in the Republican Party declared a disaster for businesses impacted. In fact, to this day, on certain SBA documents, it asks if you were impacted by some kind of rioting, or I forget what the language is. So here she is. She's berating the governor of California, telling him how to do his job. But as we just mentioned, our client, who happens to be in California, sends in the letter to the SBA as per the SBA instructions on the website and gets an email back saying, please send in a letter. Or the email we got just before rolling this video while we were eating a magnificent breakfast here in town from our client from a year and a half ago we've been working with, who was impacted by the disasters in New England, flooding, and we assisted her. She got approved for a disaster loan and then requested our assistance to request the increased modification. And it was a lot involved with that, contractor's estimates and so forth. Well, that request, she sent us an email this morning to tell us, the day we're recording this video, to tell us, I'm still waiting. I talked to customer service, and she's like, it's great. You call disaster customer service, and they pick up in less than 2 minutes. But her loan request for an increase of the loan is still in process, as per customer service.
3 months.
3 months. Meanwhile, this is what the SBA administrator is doing.
All right.
Why isn't, I don't know, where I come from in a management role, when I was a manager in mortgage companies or when I worked in retail back in the 1980s, as a manager, if there was a busy Saturday afternoon at one of my customer service desks, I would drive over to there as a district manager and roll up my sleeves and pitch in to help. Okay. Why isn't she doing that?
All right.
Maybe she can answer phones.
Stop.
I don't know if she's capable of doing that.
Let me tell you this. The other thing, too, that is absolutely mind-boggling, that she is making headlines with chastising the governor.
Performance.
And also, and I don't know enough if this is a threat or if they're actually going through with it, where they are saying how they're going to relocate the LA district office
out of LA
because of the governor.
Because it's a sanctuary city.
And it's
this is, as you see in the headlines we just posted, it's all about immigrants. She's making political hay, political performance out of your need as a small business owner, either for a disaster loan or for somebody to answer the damn phones on the COVID disaster line.
So I created a petition. It is in the description. All you have to do is text the 5-letter code to 50409, and that will send a letter by email to your representatives or your members of Congress to basically say, please fund the SBA properly and reinstate personnel, please. And that'll
The
go to
small business
Yeah.
community needs this support. They don't need somebody standing on a soapbox proselytizing about political
Not
issues.
to mention, she is a
You need action.
failed business owner.
Multiple,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
She married money, so
Comes
that's
from money.
her claim to fame.
Ran a business into the ground.
Yeah.
How is she running the Small Business Administration?
Because she is a sycophant. Anyway, so this is the other thing. If you don't know your politicians for your state and your representatives...
Shame on you.
No. Hold on.
Yes.
Congress.gov. Congress.gov. You can put in, I think it's your state or your zip code or something. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to find out who they are. But
I just Googled congressional representative and
Yeah.
the zip code. And
Right.
because I've had to answer this question actually with clients
Yes.
on the phone.
But I'm just saying Congress.gov, I think, is the most expeditious way to remember how to go in and find who your members of Congress are. And this is the most important time to be doing this, to be speaking your voice
Proactive.
to them, on what you care about that is not working in society.
As a small business owner, you are the constituents of the Small Business Administration. And that agency gets its funding and its direction through legislation from Congress. Therefore, those of you who come into our comments and ask us for help, we don't work for the SBA.
That's right.
Okay.
We don't like the
Those of you who come into our comments and complain about what you want forgiveness, nobody answers the phones at the SBA or the manufacturing company where the SBA forced that person to sell the to take the cash from a sale of an asset, which they would have used to buy an updated machine for their manufacturing company, and instead SBA forced them to use that money to pay the COVID loan, and that put the business out of business. These are the things that you are all telling us here in the comments. You're telling the wrong people.
Yes, you need to tell your members of Congress. Since January 20th, there has been a lot of things that have been walked back, reversed, or whatever because the people have spoken. If you are not talking to your politicians about the problems or issues that you are directly impacted by, directly experiencing, that is on you. That is on you. And you have to do it. You have to do the work. So, Trev, what else do we have with, discussing other issues that might have popped up in your purview?
You mean SBA dysfunction,
Yes.
which is literally what it says in the script that I just said to you. I'd like to say to all of you, I missed having Linda on camera with me, but also I haven't missed her.
Well, anyway,
'Cause
I like to say it the way I want to say it,
I know,
so it seems
we
natural.
write scripts for a reason.
Whatever. Scripts are meant to be...
To manage your COVID EIDL,
Okay.
assuming you can find the page, because when you go to SBA.gov, it is not obvious where that is. And I know that SBA is basically directing everybody to the My SBA portal, but as we hear all the time from folks on our 1-hour consulting calls, people say, yeah, I sent a message to the My SBA portal and nobody ever got back to me. I requested a copy of my loan documents through the SBA portal. Nobody ever got back to me.
We had a previous SBA employee who was let go, and he even said, good luck.
Yeah, there's nobody there to answer the emails. But therefore, since the My SBA portal is barely functional for any kind of interaction with the SBA to get things done, you have a question about your loan, you can't call because nobody answers the phone. And, if you had the same question with the IRS, you could call, speak to somebody on the phone, or better yet, just go to irs.gov, and they have voluminous pages of any topic regarding how to pay your taxes and so on and so forth.
Well,
But at the SBA,
Okay.
if you can find Manage Your COVID EIDL, it is a single page. Next is, this is an actual conversation from an SBA representative about 2 years ago. And in this case, the SBA representative and I were on the phone with one of our clients, and he was setting up his My SBA portal. There had been a problem setting it up, so I was helping walk him through it. And I got somebody at SBA's tech support. And here was her suggestion for the password that he should create for the My SBA portal. She said, use the SBA loan number as your password.
Wow.
that means that someone in your company who may have access to
Can go in.
right? Okay, so that's yet another example of bad advice, dysfunction SBA. Why do SBA emails still in the year 2025 go to the spam folder? You log into the My SBA portal, and you can request an email for the authentication code. I don't know about you folks, but when I manage our client's account, the guy with the test case that we mentioned earlier, it always goes to the spam folder. Why is that? We know that you folks are getting important emails from SBA that you're not seeing, and that's why we have continued to advise you, check your spam folder twice a day.
Set your calendar as a reminder every morning to check your spam. If you're going through a transaction where you're relying on responses from the SBA, or you're relying on something to happen for you,
like finding out that you're delinquent on your payments because there were only 5 hardship payments instead of 6, and you had an auto pay, and now SBA is telling you you're delinquent, but the email telling you delinquent is in the spam folder and you didn't see it. Next thing you get a letter from Treasury that your tax refund's being garnished.
Well, even if you don't want to clutter your calendar with setting a reminder to check the spam folder, expand your folders, because I see every day if something's in my junk folder or spam folder, whatever they call it, whatever it calls on your end. I see if there is unopened, unread emails. You should do that. You should make sure you have those folders expanded so you can see. You should make sure your view is set. At the very least,
create a procedure for yourself.
Yes.
Check spam twice a day if you're working on something with the SBA. But certainly if you're not working on something with the SBA currently, and you just check it at least once a day.
And here's another thing, since you've been talking all the time, I need to chime in here on some basic operational adjustments that need to be made in 2025, and that is...
She's pounding her fist on her knee.
There's more...
if she's doing that.
There's more phishing going on in 2025 than I've ever seen before. Yeah. So it should be a practice.
Well, there's no one left in government to safeguard consumers and small businesses.
I didn't interrupt you.
Oh.
And so I think you need to adjust how you manage your inbox to know if there's more spam going in that could be relevant to you. So that's all I wanted to say. But of course, I couldn't even say that without you interrupting me.
I'm kind of used to doing these videos by myself. Okay, here's another one. Again, going back to my test case client. Recently, because the hardship program only had 5 payments, so when I went in to manage his new payment, I reset it to a one-time payment for the full payment because, of course, I had him submit a letter to request short-term payment assistance. And I go in to, you have to put in the name of the company and the name of the bank and the routing number, the account number. So the name of his business has the ampersand. It's Food Shops ampersand, which is and, Deli.
Why are you giving the name?
That's not the full name.
Oh.
That's not the full name. Well, guess what? SBA says that the ampersand is quote-unquote an invalid character. Why? It's 2025. And I also realized this is only a fairly recent development on the My SBA portal. You know how when you go and log into accounts online that you're typing in your password and it's just ... right? But you can hit the little eyeball on the right-hand side and you can see the password and make sure you typed it in correctly. I'm not talking about you folks who use autofill, which, by the way, is often very dangerous. You shouldn't really use that. But, for the longest time, that feature did not appear on the My SBA portal. It's only recently that the little eyeball appeared. Why, SBA? Well, these are the simplest things for small business owners to manage. While you're demanding that they make payments, and you can't even take care of basic technology functions.
Well, because we have an administrator who is a failed business owner at the helm because she is a sycophant. So anyway, moving on.
Changing business. What did you say? Changes in your business?
No. Is this a part that I edit out?
This is the part you edit out, but we're moving on to the next topic.
No, the big topic that we want to talk about. Which is not in the
script, but,
Oh, no, the big topic is closing your business.
Well, failing business versus saving business. That's actually what it says in the script.
So okay. Failing business.
You want to read it?
Failing business versus saving your business.
This is something that I came to realize after a couple of recent conversations on our 1-hour consulting calls. And by the way, if you want assistance from us with your COVID EIDL, click on the link in the description.
Yes, by the way, our website has been updated with everything new we have to offer, which are blueprint breakouts,
Guidebooks,
so our COVID EIDL resource hub
guidebook.
has a guidebook, but has multiple assets, which is why it's called a resource hub. And we kind of figured there were going to be people who don't need the whole resource hub.
Or don't want to spend that kind of money.
Or-
You know, if you get a $500,000 COVID loan, to spend $1,285 for a compendium on how to manage every aspect of your loan,
Yeah.
to me does not seem like a lot of money. For a $500,000 loan,
Well, with the work we've
that
put-
you have to pay for 30 years, that you have to deal with literally the most dysfunctional federal agency.
This is the fifth rendition, the fifth edition, rendition, whatever, of our resource hub that we've elevated it, expounded, expanded, all of the good things. But we also decided to take out some of the blueprints and break them out so that if you're
when Linda says blueprint, she means break out certain chapters.
Yes.
And create what we call a blueprint.
Yes.
See, they don't know what a blueprint or a beacon is.
Well,
we know.
Okay.
And we, not everybody goes to the website.
I have put a ton of B-roll that shows the resource hub and its contents. And so I'm doing it right now so people can see how all of this is in the resource hub.
Rolling.
And so we decided to take out chapters like selling assets, closing your business, changes in your business when it comes to ownership, when it comes to address, when it comes to email, when it comes to owners involved, owners coming in, owners exiting. Anyway.
In response to all of you, well, I don't know all of you, because it's 13,000, 14,000 subscribers, but a lot of folks commenting on our videos, sending us emails asking for help. We have, and we understand we're basically kind of the only source for this information now. Like, I did a 1-hour call recently, and the guy was a business owner in Wisconsin. He said to me, I did a lot of research, a lot of Googling, a lot of YouTubing, and I watched your videos, and I realized that you people are straight and honest, and you're the people I want to do business with. Because he and other people have told me on those calls, and we've heard elsewhere, no one else is offering this kind of advice. So in response to you asking for the help, we've tried to respond,
Accommodate.
We've
tried to accommodate
your needs, for those, especially those of you who don't want to pay full boat for our services.
So each blueprint breakout, each breakout blueprint guidebook is $97. It's a digital asset you can download and have access to. And depending on the type of blueprint that you buy, there may be additional forms that come with that. But this is the other thing I wanted to say, to remind viewers, especially if you happen to be a troll and you're here right now in this moment listening to us. The thing about Trevor and I, in our previous respective careers, we were licensed financial services professionals. We were mandated by government regulations to do business in a particular state or multiple states. So we've been accustomed for decades to be ethical in our work.
And compliant.
And compliant with being honest and ethical and honest and transparent, etc. And so, we've just not tolerated when people are accusing us of things that there are people out there doing it. But it's not us.
It ain't us.
It's not us.
It ain't us.
And so we just, sometimes, I have a whole playlist on responding to trolls because it's sometimes just therapy, right? So,
well, I love this comment here. Your information is all about sadness, no forgiveness, no hardship, no chances. Come on. Found some good news for Americans, people. We are struggling.
Yeah.
We're not here to give you good news. This is not a good news channel. We're here. And I will tell you, I'm going to say this to you, so many of you just don't understand. And folks, when I tell them this on the 1-hour phone calls, they gasp because you're all small business owners.
Yeah.
This channel, as a business, is not viable. More of what we do here is really about charity and passion.
Well, the other thing, too, is it is not our job to handhold you through the process. It is our job to alert you that there is a process. It is our job, that we've made it our job, to inform you of the process, to inform you of potential hurdles in the process. But we're not here to handhold you along the way with the nuances and the nonsense, because, you know, if you're doing it on your own, then do it on your own. You can't tell us that we're shysters and hucksters,
or that we should be doing
then,
good news only,
and then expect free advice. That's not how karma works.
This is the moment, by the way, where we ask you to hit the thumbs up at least, which is the minimal price to pay. Just click the button, and then if you're not subscribed, go to that aspect and hit subscribe.
There's one thing that has been a mantra of mine. Resourcefulness is sexier than helplessness.
Oh, I love this.
You have to really find the curiosity down deep from when you were a child that said, wow, what does that mean? Especially if there are repercussions in your financial future of your business. It is your job to be curious.
Living. I mean, this is how you pay your bills.
Okay. Anyway, that's why our email is curious@auroraconsulting.biz. All right. So
failing business versus
saving your business.
This aspect of today's broadcast, plus our new guidebook on, what is it called? What's the name of the book? The new Beacon Guide? Recovery?
Business recovery. Yeah, our business. Right.
Was inspired not by one phone call, by multiple people reaching out, telling us about the problems they have. And as you've seen in our videos before, we keep telling you the SBA does not allow you any opportunity to work it out through a temporary challenge in your business. And when I say temporary, I don't mean 6 months, okay? The SBA, I mean people who are having supply chain, tariffs, employment, pandemic recovery, whatever the issues are, and they're still trying to recover, they need longer than 6 months. Well, the SBA doesn't give you any options. You can't do offer and compromise. You can't work out a payment plan. These are all things you do if you owe taxes to the IRS,
which we've talked about ad nauseum.
Well, in response to that, you know, we were doing videos about bankruptcy, which seems like the only option. Then I'm like thinking about, wait a minute, especially one particular phone call where the woman purchased our full EIDL resource hub and then sent us this beautiful email.
We just did a video about that.
And I turned to Linda, I said, this woman's gotten a phone call. And I called her, and the two of us got very emotional. She was crying, the business owner was crying, I was crying. But afterwards, I thought about it. I'm like, you know, maybe these folks, maybe some of them need inspiration and advice on strategies, which we have hundreds of videos on our other channel, Simple Sense for Small Business. But right now, on Tuesdays with Trevor and Linda Ray, let's just touch briefly on some ideas that we can share with you about if you're in this moment and you're struggling to repay this loan, do you really want to go work for somebody else, or do you want to save your business?
That is the question. Do you want to work for somebody else? Do you want your schedule to be completely upended because now you are beholden to someone else's business that they've been able to keep intact and survive? They're
going to be your boss. You're not going to be your own boss anymore.
Can we just... All right, I know we're not going to get into details, but marketing is my love language, okay? So...
I thought access service was your love language. Wait, what have I been doing for 10 years? You mean I could just like buy a billboard and put it in front of our house in the driveway and that's all it would take? I don't have to make you coffee every morning and cook you dinner and do your laundry?
Yes, you have to do all those things. And grocery shopping. Yes, please. All right, anyway, marketing is my love...
Tell them what my love language is.
Words of affirmation and physical touch. Ooh, chicka boom boom. Anyway, marketing is my love language. We have a whole playlist
on the other channel
on Simple Sense for Small Business for marketing and for sales. So Marketing Madness, Sales Strategies are two separate playlists on Simple Sense for Small Business. I think that there are people out there where if you're more right-brained and creative, you might lean into the marketing more so, especially if you're not doing it as often as you could be doing it.
I got to interrupt here because it's your, it is. All of this stuff that you're seeing here on YouTube, our business has been grown by the marketing mistress over here.
Yeah.
I have to say this to you, though, you fellow small business owners. So Linda owned an insurance agency. and I worked in the mortgage banking industry. Plus, I had my own music business on the side, which here in Connecticut, I built that business
From scratch.
from playing in one restaurant, actually in the town where our office is, and playing in one restaurant every 2 or 3 months, to by the time COVID basically put me out of business, I was doing 5 or 6 shows a week, restaurants, bars, senior residents, rehab facilities, all of that. And I did that. I got the business to that point through marketing.
Yes.
And when I was a 100% commissioned loan officer who had to find people who needed to refinance their house or buy a house, I needed to market. And the thing that confounds us time and again, from my experience, that when I needed to earn a living as a 100% commission salesperson, I went out and looked for new business, whether it was marketing or selling.
New biz dev.
And we can never, in our thousands of conversations with small business owners, both as our role here as COVID EIDL experts, but also as general small business consultants, and we have worked directly with clients here in Connecticut, time and again, we say to people, well, why don't you throw up some Instagram videos? Or why don't you do a birthday card mailing to your customers?
All kinds of ideas that go.
And they're like, oh, that's a good idea. I should do that.
Yeah, and they don't.
Don't you need money? If your business is failing.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is the next topic. What's it going to take for you to save your business?
Do you really want to save your business? That's the come to Jesus moment you have to have. Do you want to save it? And if you do, what would you do? What extent will you go to save your business? And I want to kind of wrap this up a little bit with...
Let me give you the script to help you.
No.
That's literally the final point of the
good.
script. Okay,
So this is the thing about why we're talking about this, which technically doesn't have anything to do with EIDL, but it has everything to do with you running your business, making money to afford a debt that you signed for, that you took responsibility that you were going to take this loan. Now, we saw thousands of business owners get this loan.
Well, 4 million get the COVID EIDL.
Right, but
that's not counting PPP.
But 4 million people did not contact us. So,
sadly.
Yes. So this is the reality check segment of the show. We saw business owners where we had to tell them why they weren't going to get approved for the loan, or they weren't going to get approved for the increase. You name it. We had to deliver bad news every day of the week for at least 3 years. And the things that we told them, they did not understand.
2 years.
2.5 years. 26 months. Was the program.
Yeah, 26 months.
Okay.
That's not 2.5. It's 2 years and 2 months.
Okay, whatever. It felt like 3.
Hashtag math is fun.
Anyway, we had to deliver bad news of why their practice was their practice in their business, their operations of their business was going to yield a negative result because of them not understanding how to run their business in a way that lenders would be like, yeah, sure, we'll give you money.
Well, a big part of that is letting their accountants run wild and free.
Well, see, that's
in the weeds.
That's part of the problem.
Writing off every expense and showing, minimal net income, which is great because you pay less taxes. But when you need to borrow money,
right,
you shot yourself in the foot, literally, bang.
Yeah. So anyway, worst case scenario, planning for change. Budgeting accordingly for a rainy day. These are all things that I learned decades ago that luckily I've been, fortunate enough to somehow that came into my purview, and I have held those, standards and practices for decades to understand how to survive when there's lean months and so on.
This kind of thinking and this dedication that we have here on the EIDL Experts channel to help you navigate the difficulties of the SBA program, the COVID EIDL program, All of this and our conversations with thousands of you and our observations when we go to a business, that is what inspired us to create the Simple Sense for Small Business YouTube channel, where, again, we've got hundreds of videos, free videos.
Oh,
you don't even have to pay for them. Go there. There's advice about marketing. There's videos about strategies, about basic, boring operations
We
stuff.
have a couple dozen playlists. This is the other thing, too, with this channel. It is primarily, its function is to bring into your purview potential mistakes that are real mistakes. Mistakes we've made, we've seen, we overcome, we've conquered. And we bring them to you so that you can be aware.
Shorten the learning curve.
Flatten the learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
Can we wrap it up?
Well, you got to ask them to subscribe to the channel.
We
like
already
the
did.
Channel.
We already did.
Click on the link in the description
already
if
did.
you need assistance with your COVID EIDL, because we do have products and
Yes.
services. Currently, for the month of July, we're still offering 1-hour consulting calls.
Yes.
The office is
Tuesdays
closed
only.
for the month of August, and we're not sure if we will continue calls in September. We'll determine that while we're on holiday.
You will help us determine that. If there is interest of people needing to have consultations for an hour on the phone with Trevor's undivided attention, then we will continue past August after we take our summer break. And
Maybe continue past August.
maybe I just said they will help us determine if we will continue.
I don't get any say in this?
No.
'Cause doing the calls is
No.
it's exhausting.
No, the people have spoken.